Welcome to Weekend Project. I'm Laura Lynn of the Mama Pop Quilt Shop, and we're very happy to see you here today. Today we're working on the Sugaridoo Quilt Along from 2019. We're working on row 1, row 1, but parts 1 and 2 on that. It's the pink triangles, and we're just going to have some fun with it. So there is a couple of templates that you have to print off and tape together, and this is template B, and you'll have to put them, splice them together. It's very easy. And then there's template A, which is about this size, and all these little pieces are actually a representation of that. But you do have to use these pieces to be able to trace out your fabrics, so you have adequate seam allowance to go all the way around to be able to stitch and then flip it. So I didn't have any freezer paper, so I am using parchment paper. Freezer paper has a paper side and a waxy side, and the waxy side, once heated, actually helps keep your fabric adhered to it. So I don't have no waxy side on mine, so I'm actually using it as a paper piece. So I traced out my template the way I'm supposed to, but I put it onto my parchment paper. I used pen and not pencil because pencil was smudging. And she also says that in her video of try not to use pencil because it will smudge either on yourself or on your fabric, and you certainly don't want that, especially if you're using like a white or really, really light pinks. You don't want to ruin your stuff. So, and then once you get your pieces cut out, I'll list off what you're going to need, because you're actually going to take that template number 1 or template A, and you're going to end up cutting out pieces of it to make your templates here, pretty much. So for B1, you'll need 3. For A4, you'll need 8. You'll need 8 pieces cut out, so that's why there's A4 right there. Okay, and you'll need 8 pieces of those cut out. Now, what I was doing, I was taking the template and I was laying it up against my fabric, my little strip of fabric, and I pretty much had my strips about 3 inches and a smidge, and I want to give myself plenty of room. Like, that's more than a 1/4 inch around, but sometimes you need that little bit extra to make things fit a little bit. You don't want to be too short on your top row, you don't want to be too short on your bottom row. You want to make sure it covers that whole complete template from edge to edge, and then we're just going to trim it up to fit, right? So, all right, so there's the A4 was 8 of them. The A3, which is these little colored triangles, you need 23 plus your accent fabric. Okay, and of course I got the gray here, and I got some pinks here. A2, you want 2 of them. A1, you want 2 of them. A6, you want 11 of them, and A8, you want 5 of them. That is all listed in the video, and we can certainly put it in the comments below of the cuts that you need to use. So, and then once you take your template and you trace it out like I did for my 2 pieces here, you'll need 2 of A and 3 of B. So you'll have to make 3 of these and 2 of the A ones as well. Okay, I got that all traced out here, 2 of these. So there's one already done already. Now, to be able to trace this out, I took my parchment paper and I laid it on top of my pattern, and I just took some really, just like, you know, wrapping paper tape, nothing too exciting. You could use masking tape or painter's tape or anything like that, just so I'm not making my desk all messy. And I used it here because I can see it well enough, but if you were having trouble, you can put it under a light box, a window, a monitor with a white background, that sort of thing. And then you're just going to take your ruler and you're going to trace down all those lines that you see. Okay, so this triangle here comes all the way to there. So I tried to make my lines in the one direction and then went and turned the ruler the other direction. Okay, like I said, use pen. Okay, and trace it out. And then that gives you what you need to stitch for. Okay. Those lines are going to be a representation of where you're going to be stitching. Okay. And then of course on the second A piece right here, the second A piece, one of these little triangles is the accent fabric, which is A3 on the second one you do. So make sure you put that, your gray pieces in that section right there. So when we go to lay it out, you have your pink, and your other pink hanging out in those colors, and of course we've got a little pink on the corner. So that'd be so nice. It'd be so nice. I like it that there is that little accent color in each row, like the orange hashtag behind me there on the wall. I like how it's in a different position in each. And if you make a mistake and you got it in the wrong spot, the only person who's going to know is you. And if it's bothering you that much, then you can definitely fix it. But if it's not bothering you, you just made something more unique of your own. So don't worry about it. I wouldn't worry about nothing. Just have some fun. Yes, you might make mistakes. I make mistakes. I just try to do the best I can to correct them. But if I put it in the wrong spot by accident, maybe it was supposed to be there. Maybe that's, you know, divine intervention. Some things happen for a reason, people. Come on now. And I also want to make sure I am tracing out my seam allowance too. I found that helpful. So going on the one line, where the it'll stop. You'll be seeing that, and then the rest is going to be where it's sewn together. So, but you do need to make sure that the piece of fabric is covering well past the seam allowance as well, right? So, okay. So once you get all that traced out, it's going to look almost just like that, except a little bit bigger. Okay, let's just move this off to the side so we can make some progress here. Okay. And I'll work on that one after. We're going to work on this one. So how this works is, we know we have this little triangle here that we have to work with. Well, that's not going to fit. So we're actually working on this side. We're going to be working on this side of the fabric. So we make sure we take that triangle piece, which is A2, which we needed 2 of them. So that was that piece there and this piece here. And we're just going to flip it over. And we're going to make sure with the seam allowance, which you can see that is my outer seam allowance, the outside that I'm going to cut, and then the inside where I'm going to sew, and that covers that triangle perfectly with a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this side right here where it's going to be meeting up to the black part. Okay, now if you wanted to, because I am sewing through this, that's my choice. I could easily just flip it, fold it, and then trim and then sew next to the fold, but because it's not sticking together like it would if it was the waxed freezer paper, I just feel more secure on sewing it through. I've done paper piecing before this way. It's not a big deal, and freezer paper, parchment paper is really easy to rip. Just make sure you turn your stitch down a little bit lower so you can perforate it to rip the paper out. So I think I have mine at it's going to be like a 2 or like a 1.8, 2, somewhere in there to make your stitches smaller. Okay, so now we're going to take this piece and we're going to flip it over. And we're going to take one of our black pieces that we need that's going to fit in that section. Hopefully I got that piece right. Nope, that's not the right piece. Make sure you got the right piece. I think I cut some extra here just in case. Okay. So I want to make sure that I'm covering this little black section right there. Okay. So I'm going to take my material and I'm going to lay it right up on that edge, and then I'm going to flip it as if it was sewn, and I'm going to make sure that it's going to cover that whole, all those lines, and it will. Okay, so once I get this into the position I need it to, I can lay this one on top. Okay. And because it's a little slippery, that's why I was laying it to the point where I could see it, and then I would pop a pin away from where I'm going to be stitching, okay? Because I'm going to be stitching on this side, right? I'm going to be stitching on the line. So when flipped, we're going to work our way to that gray piece, okay? All right, so let's put it underneath machine. And sewing on that first line between A3 and A1. Or A2. Is that A2? Whatever that was. Alright, and then I'll take my little pin out, and then when flipped, you can see where that shadow is. It's going to cover that whole piece of where it needs to be. So our next piece that we need to add on here is the gray one. So we want to make sure we're trimming our black fabric to 1/4 inch of this line. Now there is very special little tools you can get. It's add 1/4. They're yellow, they're pink, they're red, they're all sorts of colors. I do have one here, but I thought it would be nice to show you what it's like just to use your normal ruler. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to come and you want to fold on this line. You want to fold that line towards you, and then you want to fold it back so you can be able to see it. Okay. So fold that line all the way up, just like that. And our fabric is taut, okay? And then we're gonna use just our regular ruler, and using our 1/4 inch right there, that 1/4 inch line right there, we're gonna line that right up on our fold, and then use our rotary cutter and trim that down. And then when we flip this back, we get the position of where the gray is going to be, and we can line that up there. And then we know when flipped, or when sewn and flipped, it's going to cover that little gray triangle section right there. Okay. So here, let's get that little heat loving first. Okay. And I don't have to worry about anything sticking, so I can just give it a little press because it doesn't have the wax. Okay. Gray square too, or triangle. Okay, there we go. We'll just line that up and then flip it over, and then we're just going to sew right down on that line. And hopefully, if we didn't get it too high, it'll cover that section perfectly. I moved it. So I can see why the freezer paper would definitely be handy in this, but you can also, like I said, just use a small pin and put it over away from where you're going to be sewing, but it still holds all the fabrics together. Okay. Put it back underneath the machine. And if I made a mistake, I can seam rip it. Yeah, I might rip my paper a little bit, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. Just try and be as precise as possible with your seam allowances. It's just going to make the whole row go a lot easier. Okay, so now we take that off and we flip this. And is that going to be long enough to cover on the bottom there? Oh, just by the hair of my chinny chin chin. Okay, so now you can see that that gray piece is in position, but it's too long for this section here. So we need to just do a little finger press. Flip that back over, and then we see this line right here, this pretty line. We're going to fold on that line towards us. Put our ruler on the 1/4 inch right on that line, on that fold. Give it a trim. Fold back. And then this is where another black piece is going to go. Okay. I think that should cover it. If we do this and this, we should be okay. Okay. And again, if you feel you need to pop a little pin in, just pop a pin in where you know you're not going to be sewing. You could do it on the one side or do it on the other side to hold everything together. You could probably use even just a little glue, white, sorry, not white, the Elmer's washable glue. That's what I was trying to think of, sorry. Come all the way down, and then once flipped, you can really start to see how this is taking formation. And then we're going to add another pink piece over here, but we need to fold on that line because you can see where the seam allowance is bigger than a 1/4 inch, so we need to trim it. So we're going to fold on that line and then trim up. Okay. And once you get your hands around the folding and the tucking and stuff like that, it becomes really quite fun to do. So it's just a matter of not being stingy with your fabric, making sure you have more than you need. Like this is some of these that I did cut at a quarter. I found that they were a little tight, so I'd almost go a ½ inch around just to make things you know, fun and exciting. Okay, let's try this one here. Okay, so up there. That's laying nice and flat. I don't think we need a pin. Just sew it on down. And then stopping at our next line, which is going to be when we sew the black up in that direction, okay? And then flipped over. Got plenty to cover. Okay, seam allowance will be a little bit shy on that, but that's okay. We can still make it happen. That's why I say, you know, maybe just a little bit bigger than a ½ inch around. Okay. And now we take our other piece, which you're going to lay up on there, and make sure once flipped, there's plenty to cover. Yep. Okay, so let's take this one and give it a trim. Okay. We're going to be a little tight on that one, that pink area, but that's okay. We'll make it work. We'll make it work. Okay, and then we'll lay this one on top. And then making sure, once flipped, because we got another pink and another black to add as well. Or my background fabric, whatever color your background fabric. I can't wait to see what some people are doing. Oh, wrong side. See, mistake number 1. So used to sewing on the one side, right? So, okay. Back over here. We got this. We got this. Just keep our line nice and straight. There we go. No worries. It happens. We saved it. We saved it. There we go. Now press this out. And then we'll trim at our last pink here, and then our last little black piece. All right, see, you end up with little bits and bobs of like strips like that. If you can find something fun to do with them, then, you know, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, laying that flat, taking our little trimmer, laying it back, grabbing another color. What haven't we used? Let's use the roses. There we go. I like the roses. Roses are pretty. Okay. Now I think I'll use my small little pin and put it down over here. And then there's plenty of room to sew on that seam allowance over there. And then in no time at all, you got yourself a really awesome looking row. And you can take the paper piece, the parchment paper out as you finish each section, or you can sew it together and work yourself from there. Okay, last little fold here for this piece. Okay, there we go. Make sure that's stretched out. Oops, hold on. There we go. Okay, a little shy on that corner, but we'll make it work. Say a little bit more fabric, I think, would go a long ways on completing this project for sure. Okay, and then here's our last little piece, which was A8, and we needed 5 of those. So we want to make sure we're lining it up correctly so that when flipped, it's going to cover that whole little section. That little long half triangle. Okay, oops, sorry. Just trying to lay it a little bit flat here. Pop a little pin in away from where I'm going to be stitching. Flip it over so you can see the lines of where you need to stitch. Stick it underneath the machine and then make it happen. A little thin on that seam allowance, but I'm going to do the best I can. And then just a little bit, and hopefully it'll work out. Okay, take that out. And then there. So we've got enough. Yeah, we do. Just enough on the top there. And then we'll trim it out. So we'll give that a little bit of a press first. Okay. just to kind of make sure all those little seams are laying flat. And then I've just been using the same rotary for this whole project because I am trimming the parchment paper. And then once you line your pieces up, you want to trim them. And of course, when you're using paper scissors, make sure you mark them somehow, or your sewing scissors, so you know, or the family knows what is paper and what is fabric. Oops. Okay, there's one little side. Now this whole piece from one salvage edge to the other should measure 4.5 inches, okay? Looks great to me. Okay, and then here, and here. Now how these get laid out is you're going to sew the 3 section B's together. I've got 2 here, and of course I'll be working on the 3rd one off camera. So you're going to sew these 3 sections of the B together, the long one. And then you're going to add the 2 A's on either end. And you can see how they match up to continue the movement. Isn't that kind of cool? Love it. Now, we'll put the link below to the free pattern website to pick this pattern up. It's from 2019. It has been a great little fabric buster for me. I'm trying to use, instead of solids for where all the color, I'm trying to use all patterned of what I can find. That's why I use all the patterned orange behind me there, and now patterned pink. And then I think the next one is blue, so, or very light blue anyway. So I'll have to figure out what we can do pattern-wise for those sorts of fabrics. So thank you everybody for watching, liking, and subscribing. We greatly appreciate you here. If you have any comments, list them below. And I'm just really happy to take on this adventure. It's very colorful, and I'm loving my background color, and I really like the way the accent color stands out as well. So I'm gonna plug away at this last one here and get her done. Take care everybody. Enjoy the weekend, and big hugs to you. See you soon.